know, had like 85% graduation rate, which was higher than any other district in the nation. And they were, 98% high school graduation rate and 85% college enrollment rate. I mean, it was unheard of, and that shook some people up because they thought there's no shake the status quo, and we're going to have it all their farm workers were not college graduates. So that, you know, one reason and another makes the members that are there, folks get taken off the shelf, and Tony was on it, like he's been with this wonderful radio program he's had in Houston for 2 years.
Yeah, so we're actually celebrating our 26th year now.
There you go.
Yeah, last year was 25 years.
Of educating the community and giving information on this, and he was so angry at what had been done, and he was, how can they do this? How can they take this away from us? How can they ban books? And I answered him, and we were going back and forth in this chat discussion. And I said, what am I gonna have to do when I go back to Arizona? Smuggle my books back in a brown paper bag. And 2 weeks later, we had set up a paper, but I've done this. We were just books there. Yeah, and if he gets here, you know, we'll introduce ourselves, and if he's still not here, go ahead and get started.
He's a few minutes out.
Okay,
So, yeah.
okay. Anybody, some of us have introduced ourselves, but, you know, if you want to say something, you want to say where you're from. I have to point out that the Honorable Elena Guadalupe just walked in the room and said, the Honorable, because she was a city council person.
My friend.
And she still is, she's retired, and she's working harder than ever defending our rights, and she's working at the election booths, and she is trying to keep our democracy, keep people being able to vote and being informed. So I'm introducing you. You don't have to say anything. Anybody else want to, ¿de dónde vienen? ¿De dónde son?
Stella Juarez. I lived here in the West Side for my life, really. I worked in the West Side for 37 years. I worked at JT for about 13 years. I was a speech therapist. I was a speech therapist there and a speech therapist at the So my entire career has been set in the West Side. Currently, I live in bilingual place, so I'm still living here. These are my sisters. They're also, she's an educator. 38 years.
Yay! Right line of work.
Yes. So, she was in the health profession.
Yes, I just want to tell you, Carmen, that I met you 35 years ago in the Rio Grande Valley. I was living there, and I was amazed, by you, and I've always hoped I'm well enough with Facebook to follow you. And I thought that your storytelling was wonderful and motivating, exciting. I was born and raised here, and got married and moved to McAllen, Texas. Was here 30 years, and came back and I'm retired now.
We lived in McAllen for 10 years.
Maybe that's how we met in your audience.
Yeah, so we had that dedication of the beautiful mural there. I remember hearing you that.
And thank you for the compliment on the beautiful stories, but I really sometimes feel like I'm just a scribe, I'm just a secretary. I hear people talking, I hear their stories, and I write it down, because we have a beautiful story, we have a beautiful history, and it hasn't been recorded, and people don't always know how great and noble and strong we're being. And so for all the viejitas and viejitos and tías and abuelos that I knew growing up on the West Side and in the Valley and elsewhere, these stories are true because they lived it. So someone's got to record it and show how strong our culture is. Anyone else? Well, I got to introduce another person here. Miss Rodriguez, who wrote the Teacher's Guide, the Educator's Guide to Warrior Girl, which is now posted on the website of got it up, I haven't checked this last day or two, but I'm saying that 2 weeks ago. So that's, she has some wonderful activities, and we were so tickled to have a wonderful bilingual teacher, bicultural teacher, who's empowering students so much, and an educator. Just talking because Tony's been here, so we're gonna have fun. Oh.
That's all. San Antonio in 2000 to go to our Lake, become a speech pathologist. And my language is and I had the privilege of working with Illinois and Edgewood IC. And so that's how I was going to meet you. Because in working with kids, I've used and continue to use what you do about it. As a speech therapist is close. So like my journey leads me back to you in different realms. Now with my daughter, a lot of the youngest, and dual language program and the speech delay, but reading Warrior Girl, she was able to go and retell the physical. And so we have gone to sleep with her. I feel like that's her first book that she's liked and has read. I think she was really nervous. Like, Mom, can you do this? She read. Anyway, and then my eldest, Marcella, is vice president of the Mexican American Student Association at Marshall High School. We're awesome moms. And so they're doing a whole lot, bringing me back to my roots, reading them.
You're developing strong, and will then be able to build their own strength. They don't have to have somebody else develop it. They build themselves. It becomes natural to grow. Nobody has to teach a tree how to grow. You just have to not chop it down. You know, and some of us have to chop that and chop that and chop that. So you made sure that they were, you know, regados y things you saw, and they will develop their own strength and identity based on so there was a question here earlier, but I just do children's writings. I write, my problem is that I'm not a specialist. You know, you get into writer circles and somebody writes like biography, nonfiction biography after nonfiction. And then they're really good at it, and they're really specialists, or somebody writes only picture books. And I'm like, oh, man, because we were restricted so much, we were held back so much, we were told so much, we couldn't do it all. And so I have written books for 0 to 110, and 0 was really interesting because I didn't know it was a 0, so I wrote it, turned it in, and published it. This is for 0 to Floridians. Anyway, Tony's here.
Muy buenas noches, ¿cómo están? Thank you so much for your patience. I do have to apologize to an icon. My Uber took me to the wrong place, and in case you didn't know, there are 100,000 music educators in town today, making it even more interesting to drive. On that note, I want to welcome you to the first event and convening of the 2024 Texas Author Series at the Latino Bookstore and Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center. Carmen, she is the madrina of the Latino Bookstore. She's a dear friend of mine. She really is a legend, and she's down to earth. And she's a brilliant writer, who continues to give back. So she actually is a wonderful performer. So I appreciate her patience. She could technically not only introduce herself, she could put on a whole show and introduce everybody in the room.
She was.
She was. She was. But by the same token, thank you for letting us spoil you just a little bit. Let us spoil you just a little bit into backyard, which is San Antonio. And we're so happy that we can embrace you here on the west side of San Antonio, because the whole country knows you, the whole world knows you, but it's wonderful that this is where you came from. And it's wonderful that you share your genius and your art with the Latino Bookstore and the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center. And of course, we hope that everyone will feel at home every second Friday of the month as we kick off our next full year of programming. And we want to remind you, this is one of the few places where our cultura can come and during business hours, enjoy their art and culture and take a little bit of it home with them. It's not to diminish all the other book endeavors. So shout out to Librotraficante in Califas, Resistencia Books in Austin, Casa Ramirez in Houston, and anybody that's dreaming up a pop-up right now on live stream. Please, we encourage you to do so, to keep us posted. We never want to diminish your work. We just want to tell the rest of the world that there aren't too many buildings that are hidden home, called home, and we can convene it on our terms. And it's really wonderful to welcome one of our very own champions to our house. On that note, today really is special for so many reasons. And as you embrace Warrior Girl and add this to your personal collection, I do want to say a couple things. Since we've last met, the Texas Institute of Letters has recognized what we always do, but they have recognized you for a lifetime achievement. And I want to say one thing. We're very happy that we support writers that are established like Carmen Tafolla, but she and the Latino Bookstore support new writers, writers from independent presses, and we try and really promote the whole community. We try and promote not just San Antonio, all of Texas, and sometimes Tejanos that have gone somewhere else and come back. So you get to see some of that. Next second Friday of March, you get to see someone that you know from San Antonio, Anel Flores, with her book Empanada that she'll be sharing. And then also a writer from Houston, Texas, Isis Fernandez, who I'm so happy we cultivated from when she wasn't published to the launch of a new book. So I want to just make it clear that we try and celebrate all those writers, and we run out of space too. So folks that we try and celebrate now, we'll try and celebrate. If we can't get to them, we'll celebrate them later. One other thing I really want to remind you too is that this is not just your typical bookstore. So when you buy a book tonight, the proceeds go back to the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center to help finance all of the different art forms that we have here. Anybody been to the Conjunto Festival? Oh, yeah, all right. Cine Festival? Mariachi? Baile? I love it. I love it. All those art forms are based here, but we all help each other continue to pay the bills and make sure that there's someone here to attend to you. Additionally, I want you to know that Congressman Joaquin Castro gave a grant to the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center, which means that we were able to create a curriculum guide for this book. So if you know it and love it, please embrace it, please spread the word. But if you know educators or folks at a community center, tell them that if they email us, we will send them a free copy of the lesson plans, the curriculum guides for teachers to use in schools. We want to spread that far and wide for free. And again, we want to thank the office. We should applaud Congressman Joaquin Castro for funding that. And I do want to thank Araceli Rodriguez, who is the wonderful teacher that wrote the lesson plan, who is a brilliant instructor, has inspired many. But this is what we get to bring folks, is that these are folks that know our community, that have a heart in our community, but spread it all over. And you mentioned some of the hardships that have existed in the past to spread books and now that are upon us. How beautiful that we have our own space to share our books. And I love the title, Warrior Girl, because at the end of the day, we are champions of cultura. We are champions of conocimiento. And tonight, I'm so happy that we get to meet, talk, and celebrate someone that has changed the world with 4 words, but always come back home. So as people are watching on live stream, this will air later on Nuestra Palabra's radio show. Of course, right now it's on the live stream. If you go to the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center Facebook page, you can share that as well. Porque la gente va a tener envidia. Oh man, I wasn't there, right? Let them know. Let them know they can come throughout the week. But let's applaud nice and loud so they can hear us all across the internet as we welcome home our very own Carmen.
Wow. Thank you, Jonathan. He really knows how to make us sound good, huh? I was thinking about this evening. The book came out in September, the Spanish version of it, the emerita, will be out next month in March. And I was thinking, well, they're probably bored with it by now. They've heard it, they've seen it, they've heard about it. And then I thought, that's ridiculous. You don't get the whole city to read things. And people have their very busy schedules because we're very lucky as a community. We have lots and lots of activities going on. We have a choice of things. We have to turn things down. Some places never get Mexican American cultural events, or rarely. So, that's something to be proud of. But also I thought, I want to make this appeal to a broader audience. Because we are many things, each one of us. Some of us are parents, or children, or siblings, or abuelos. We're professionals, or we're retired, or we're working hard to make ends meet. We're ambassadors and diplomats between our neighbors and between our friends, between people that are, no, ¿por qué dices eso? And you're the one that's trying to make the peace. We do so many different things. And so I wanted to honor all of the people here and all of the things that they do, people from every age. We have from 2nd grade up. So I'm going to mix a little bit. I'm not going to start with Warrior Girl. I'm going to start with a piece of prose. I told you guys that I kind of have a little rebelde in me because I just got tired of being told what I could do and what I couldn't do when I was growing up. And so as a result, I did a little bit of everything. I did, I won't stick with one thing too long. I'll move to something else and do that and then come back. And I'm doing poetry with one hand and children's lit with the other, and something for adults only with another hand. And so, I wanted to share some of that. I wanted us to also know the struggles that we've come through. So I decided I'd start with a piece of prose, a little short story. And writers are dangerous because they write about true things. They tell the truth. So this is a fiction, sort of. I changed the names, So I have a choice for you guys. You get to pick. One is a story that very few people, that I only published back in 1980. Something, hold on. It was published the first time in around 83 or 84, and it caused the greatest scandal because it was about a little tradition that happened to be going on in Austin when my late husband and I had first moved to Austin. And we were from San Antonio. We didn't know what was going on in Austin. And turns out he went to work. And at work, somebody said, "Oh, are you going to the Tapiana this evening? All the leaders of the Chicana community are going to be there. You got to be there." gotta go, it's really wonderful, it's up in Silver Park, it's gonna be so cool. And so what did he do? He came home and told me, like, come on, vamos, apaga comal, we're headed out to Silver Park, we're gonna have fajitas, all the leaders. And so when we thought of all the leaders, we immediately thought of Marta Cotera. Because Marta Cotera was behind everything good that happened in Austin for the Chicana community, it seemed. And we had a little surprise in mind. So this is not a piece of fiction, it is prose. But I thought I'd share it with you just to give you a little feel for our history and what has happened. And especially because we're living in a time period now, and not that it's new, we've been living in this for a long while, but where several groups of human beings have been prime targets. Women, pretty much universally, being controlled or demonized or restricted or told to know their place. Children, always children have been the last ones to have rights. If you look at our budgets, if you look at child poverty, most of the poverty population in the United States are children. The children are the ones that are struggling. Our money's going everywhere except to the starving children in the U.S. And the immigrant populations. So I think I want to start with a little bit of feminism, and this is a little bit of history told as a story. You don't know Marta. Now I might as well be honest and tell you right now that I'm prejudiced. I think San Antonio is the absolute center of the universe. El mero mero ombligo, which doesn't make me too popular living in Austin, you know. Most folks get to Austin and say, isn't Austin just great? And don't you love it here? But we San Antonians, we just shrug our prejudiced shoulders and say, well, it isn't San Antonio, but. Well, now Ernie and I moved to Austin right after we got married. That is, we moved to the San Antonio side of Austin, and we hadn't lived there long enough for the cilantro to bloom when someone at work invited him to a tardeada. So the tardeada was an annual function to gather together the leaders of the Chicano community, a time to relax, drink beer, eat fajitas, let their hair down, and just talk. They wanted a chance to bring together all the leaders of the community and the great ideas before. Now, when he said that, I immediately thought of Marta Cotera. Marta is one of the few people I know who stays awake nights just plotting how to help people. Ernie has a favorite saying about Marta. He says, if Marta stepped outside the city limits, the average IQ of the city of Austin would drop by 15 points. And you guys know about all those university professors and high-tech researchers in Austin, not to mention some of the smartest political philanderer you ever saw in that good old boys club they call Capital. You might think that was a slight exaggeration, but then you know Marta. You know, Marta and I had plotted many community projects together, and I can vouch that we no sooner be sketching out the final objectives to one project that she'd be thinking of 4 other spin-off projects as well, and planning 40 ways to get funding and implementation for all 5. She just doesn't stop. Más viva que una víbora, and going faster than the speed of light on the slogan. So Ernie turns to me and says, what do you think, should we go? And both of us, being the shy retiring type, could never get involved in Chicano community affairs. We're out the door before the woman is even cool. We drove up to a place, a real pretty clubhouse type place up in Silver Park with a nice view and the breeze blowing cool and perfect for a tardeada on a summer evening. And we got out of the car following the mariachis to the door. Right away, we knew something was wrong. Now there was Marta's husband Juan, standing with a group of 5 or 6 men. And behind them was another group of 8 or 9 men. Off to their right was a group of 9 or 10 men. To their left, a group of 8 or 9 men, and then maybe 60 men more off of the plaza section. Now that comes to a total of 94 men at a rough count, and every single one of them, or at least 93, staring at me like I was the scourge of the earth. Also staring at Ernie like he was a cross between Aaron Burr and the assassin of Pancho Villa. Now these aren't strangers, mind you. Among those 93, for a good 30, they were well-known to us. Andres, who teaches at the university, Ramon, another famous bilingual educator, or even good old Gonzalo, a modern Mexican-American politician and would-be Texas Monthly cover boy. And every single one of them scared to death to to say hi or even move an eyelid at us. Yeah, I said 93. Number 94 was Arnulfo. Now they don't call Arnulfo for nothing. His face just brightened when he saw me and me, two of his favorite people, and totally unselfconsciously he came over and shook our hands, both of us, like we were real human beings or something. Now I know this is hard to believe that in the middle of that bunch of squinty-eyed thorns there'd be an old cactus flower like Arnulfo, but there he was, big as day, smiling so bright and pretty and pumping out his handshake like he didn't see the 1,000 eyes glued to our lipless presence. Now, I can't say for certain because you do know that Arnulfo wears real thick glasses. Maybe it was just because of that. Or maybe it was the glasses he always wears on the sole that gives him a different sight from everyone else. At any rate, we spent 20 minutes talking to Arnulfo because he just wouldn't let us go, you know, and then we decided we really felt like going on. Well, later on, when I ran into Andres, he made a point of telling me he agreed with us, whatever that meant, and how they've been told that Wahua, that's how Mexican American Business and Professional Women's Association had been planning to crash the Tatiana and warned that anyone caught speaking to any woman there wouldn't be invited back the next year or ever again. An old Gilbert of Gilbert's Office Supply and the Mexican Chamber of Commerce, seeing as how we have known better than you to Austin, came around to invite Ernie the next year to explain how they were planning to host something for the ladies sometime, a dinner or something, you know, so they can be involved too. And Ernie just smiled and said, well, you just let us know what you do, and we'll both be there. And then we took that fancy engraved invitation to the all man, no women, no angles allowed, and just put it at the bottom of our stack of bills paid. We'd already been to one Palabra, and if you think all the ladies were there, then you just don't know life. So this published because of this scandal, and within 2 years, the album wasn't happening. And they could have kept it going and just invited women, you know, but well. So I wanted to start with something just to give us a little sense of background, and also because we're lucky to live in a place where there's diversity. I will say the dirty words, okay? Diversity. When you have a bunch of flowers of different colors, that's something beautiful, something to choose from. Diversity. It's a wonderful thing. Nature loves diversity. Why do you think we have mutations? You know, if it's enough to have blue flowers and red flowers and pink flowers and red, nature goes one in there that's like half purple with little white spots on it, you know. I mean, nature thrives on diversity. And we're lucky because we live in an area where we have many cultures that come together. And sometimes for me, that felt like I was a little kid standing on a border trying to balance between two sides and having lots of fun jumping back and forth. So this next poem, and then I'll get before you go. This next poem is called Both Sides of the Border. And it's to give you a little exercise so you don't have to feel like you have to be very proper and sit there and stiff and you get a little tired of sitting in the chair. So I'm gonna ask you to do something with me because when I wrote this, because I was thinking of the way I grew up in Mex, you know, we spoke half English and Spanish, we had cultural traditions that were like Santa Claus and the Three Kings, and you know, all the mixtures of the two cultures. I thought, well, I can't write this all squished together. I'm gonna put it in two different columns. I'm gonna go back and forth to the different sides of the page. So it was written in two columns, which was great until the first time that I tried to read it. I said, how am I gonna show them that how do I explain that there are two different places, these things going on? So I said, okay, when I read on this column, I'm gonna raise this hand, and when I read on this column, I'm gonna raise this hand. And you guys can help me because you too live on both sides of the border. So when I go like this, raise this hand, and when I go like this, raise this hand. You ready? Don't hit anybody next to you. Just get all your exercise in, okay, both sides of the border. That deep, delicious desire to run on 2 tracks at the same time, jump back and forth, or let one foot fall inside each track, like a little girl straddle skipping 2 sides of the curve. To read the subtitles in Spanish and hear the English words simultaneously. To write one story in the legal lines of the legal pad, and then to escape and scribble illegal notes up the margin on a whole different page, or poem, or poema. I was born bilingual, a lullaby between the text and the mix. My first nickname and admonition to a tío, primo, hermano de mi papá, as he painted the walls of my house, perched high on the ladder. Man, guys, I shouted. A name I'd call him forever after, and he, me, our bond, our new language, never as correct as expected, never te vas a caer, hombre, or even you're gonna fall, man. But even then, I loved the octopus arms of my mother language, Tex-Mex. Even then, I could not stay within the required lines, not jump the border, not quite step on the crack of your mother's back, not live on both sides of the border. To be de este lado y de ese lado. To skip, straddle the curve. One foot falling on this side, next foot falling on the other, but more fun when I rode the curve, balancing above the world of territories owned. Laughing in my freedom from either and both. We were free from Mexico, not even bound by their laws. But to prove we were not conquered property in the US, we sassily insisted on still saying La Capital, not for Washington, D.C., but for Mexico City. My tongue runs to jump the language boundaries, sampling like a gleefully wild child of the goodies spread out on both tables, all stuffed into my mouth at once by fingers. No forks, no limits, no portions, all the impulse you can run, you can get away. The viejito watching the desserts can't catch you. You are sinvergüenza, high and high-powered, wound up with the freeness and zapatos without limits. I write 2 novels at the same time. I take 2 languages, sever them with no restrictions, no unmeasured portions. I stuff myself with tasty words of opposing parties. I laugh, am unbroken. The donkey still rears up on hind legs to jump over the log instead of lifting one leg at a time, ladylike, to be gentle. Passengers, no, forget your hats. Hang on to your seats. The ride is wild. It's not guaranteed. It's not even defined. You don't know which of the 2 dictionaries to use. Like life and death, it gets all tangled together. Maybe you're hearing me talk. Maybe you're hearing yourself. Maybe I answered a question. Maybe I gave 2 different answers, like, which religion am I? Well, kind of Catholic, but sin papeles. Since I was born and baptized, a barrio Protestant? Well, okay, you say, let's write down Christian. That ought to define it. Well, no, I say, like what I am namely is Native American Guadalupana. You frown at, begin to study the picture on my wall of the Virgin of Guadalupe, alias Indian Tonantzin, mixed with Sephardic Jew. You check for papers. No, I explain, all unofficial, of course. I'm a mojada. I don't got papers. But I do got citizenship. 2 of them. Like I got ownership without the deeds. These places are mine. These spaces are mine. These borders are mine. Both sides of the river. It's not that I don't belong. It's just that I belong twice. Don't we all? It is time. It is more than twice past the time. I want an altar. No, 2. I take the 2 wooden boxes, once drawers and a work table in my garage hit by a tornado. Garage torn down and rebuilt. The table isn't there anymore. That's okay. Everything has at least 2 knives. I can hang them by their handles. One will be an altar to Lupe, the pregnant virgin. Well, most things are medically possible. The Catholic Holy Mother with unborn mestizo baby. Moon, sun, gold stars and cloak, red dress, black belt of pregnancy identical to Aztec goddess Tonantzin. A Spanish plot to convert Indians to Catholicism? No, an Indian plot to convert Catholicism to Indians. Subversively, they called her Queen of the Emeritas. Her only crown, the Indian sun, simultaneous with the footstool moon, her hands folded humbly, but no one's fooled. I'll keep her big, bright Mexican colors, green and red with gold stars, but maybe I'll add something. Blue jeans, dreamcatcher earrings, green card, maybe not. We pray to her. She prays to someone else, maybe to us. Please, Virgencita, please, not Virgencitos, protect us as we say. Attack, she says. Charge ahead for yourselves. So the other box, drawer, altar, will be Dia de los Muertos. I'll call it All My Children. Like the soap opera, with the ad from the soap opera pasted behind it and pictures of all my kids, even the ones who weren't born. Children, the very sprouting to life. But in the middle of Dia de los Muertos, the very sprouting of death. And like in every Day of the Dead altar, everyone in it will be a muertito, a little laughing skeleton. So there will be my kids, all of them, the live muertitos and the dead muertitos, all with sweatsuits from Old Navy or Ross or the dollar store in different colors and their initial on it, and also these books and the Diaz and ancestors and a bunch of other people who aren't my children, that could have been, and a globe of the world. Drawers, altares, in my home, too. So you never get too serious about just one. You never get too committed to one ideology, one language, one focus, one religion. My bicultural, altares, one to an aspect Christian, pregnant, virgin, and one to all the dead we loved before, hung together to life and to death. Or is it to death and to life? Or is it both things at the same time, in both places, always both sides of every border? This book, Warrior Girl, is about reclaiming what's yours. It's about reclaiming those lost parts of yourself whose absence still hurts, and reclaiming them in a way that reminds you that there's joy and celebration and a spirit inside your core that can never be lost. This book is about learning how to build a shield that is very special. It lets some things through, like smiles and friendship and the joy of new adventures. But other things, like dirty looks or sneers or lies or insults, those things just bounce off. This book is also about stress and survival and strategies for how to deal with big problems in ways that affect change, but that also bond you closer to others. The 12-year-old girl in this book is Selena Teresa Guevara Amaya, but when she starts school, her name gets changed. Her language gets forbidden, her culture and history get looked down on, and then just as she's starting a new school on the west side of San Antonio, and is very excited about the year to come. And the family has moved in with the grandma she adores, and she's getting all pumped up about starting 7th grade. Her father gets deported back across the border at a time when cages are being set up to lock people into. For months, they don't hear a word back and don't know where he is or even if he's still alive. Her grandmother and her 3 new best friends at school help her deal with these worries, and her teachers encourage her newfound love of writing and commitment to social justice until the pandemic hits. And she can't even get together with her friends or her teachers. One thing she knows, though, is that she'll stay true to her name, Guerrera, which means a woman warrior. The Spanish word for woman warrior, she will stay true to, and the fight for justice for everyone. Some folks think this book is just for girls. It's not. The world has stolen the rights and identities and freedoms and dignity of both girls and boys. Some folks think this book is only for kids. It's not. Publishers like to have the comfort of a target age group, so they said, oh, this is middle grade, ages 10 to 14, and they put the little label on it. But then when it came out, And the reviews started coming in from places like Publishers Weekly. Publishers Weekly said 10 and up. School Library Journal said 10 and up. I was having lines of young kids coming through with books, and their moms were right behind them going, I asked my agent, well, does 10 and up mean like 10 to 18? Or does it mean 10 and up, up? She said 10 and up, up, 10 to 110, whatever. Okay. Some folks may think this book is only about Mexican Americans, but it's not. It's about anybody who cares about things being fair, who cares about being silenced and bringing people's voices up to be all that they can be and say all that they want to say. And just about a month and a half ago, I found out it had been selected as one of 11 finalists for the Jane Addams Children's Book Award, which is this international award focused on peace, social justice, global community, and equity for all people. I don't even care if it wins. We'll find out later. It's a finalist, and I'm just tickled that it's being read by people in other countries and in other places. So here's the voice of Selena Teresa Guerrero Maya. I can't read you the whole book. So I'm going to start with, I'm taking out, it's a novel in verse. A novel in verse, if you've never read one, is like instead of chapters, you have poems. So you go from this point to the next point. So I'm going to pull out some of those poems that kind of tell pieces of the story. If it gets confusing, just kind of stop me. Make a suggestion. So I'll just pull pieces out. She starts by telling us her story. She, a 12-year-old kid about to start 7th grade, goes back and starts to reflect on her life and say, this is what happened when I was a baby, and this is what happened when I started school, and this is what happened at this point, and this is where I am now. So that's why you're going to hear her talking about the 6-year-old, talking about 4th grade, and then all of a sudden she's up. So bear with me, and like I say, just give me a signal that it's confusing. How I got my name. So when I was born, my mom said, "Ay, qué preciosa. I want to name her Selena." But my dad said, "I want to name her after your mama, Teresa." And mom nodded kind of and said, "Well, name her Selena Teresa. And we can call her Tere around the house so grandma can know how much we love her." And they did. And everything was good with my name except for one thing. My dad's last name is Guerrero. And my mom's is Amaya. And the nurse got confused when she saw all those names. Selena, Teresa, Guerrero, Amaya. I don't think 4 is too many names, but I guess the nurse did. So she wrote down Guerrero with an A at the end of the name instead of an O. And she dropped the Amaya completely. No one noticed right away because they were too busy oohing and eyeing over me. Then the birth certificate came in the mail and they noticed it. And Dad just laughed. He said, "Well, Guerrera means a woman warrior. I bet she'll be brave and strong and fight for justicia." And then he said, "We could get it fixed later, maybe." And Mom repeated, "Maybe." Then the very next month, they deported my dad back to Mexico for not having the right papers. Funny how papers can be so right and so wrong, and can even mean more than people in some folks' eyes. What matters? Luckily, my dad returned to us pretty soon, because there's no way he was going to leave my mom alone to raise their beautiful baby girl, me. Mama said to get back, Dad had to work to raise money. I borrowed some from his cousin too, had to swim across the river at night, and then cross the desert with no water, and then walk through a field of snakes. But he came back. And he kept working here to pay for the rent, for the food and the diapers. He kept trying to get his papers, but something else always had to be paid first, like taking a baby to get my shots, or getting the motor fix on the car, or learning enough English to do his taxes, or working to help Mama pay for her nurse's aid schooling. But nothing was going to stop him from being there for me and being the best dad, and that's what really matters. Grandma said I was wonderful. Life is so much fun when you're little and at home with people who love you and look at you with eyes full of hope. That's what my grandma did. She looked at me. Even when I was bad and snuck an extra pan de polvo off the plate before the party, she'd laugh and say, "Que sinvergüenza esta muchacha." Even though her words said I was rascally, that's not what her eyes said. I saw her eyes. They said I was wonderful. Then Tere starts first grade. Some of you have seen the performance piece. I'm not going to do it tonight, but this little child goes to her first day very excited, feeling very smart because they tell her home that she's so smart, she's so lista, que chula, and everything. And when she gets to school, a lot of things are different from what she expects. And she's like all fixed up, and she's got 2 bows in her hair, and got her little pigtails, and she's all ready. And she's, "I'm gonna be party today because I got first grade." "Sí, am I, Lord?" "Yes, I'll be good, you know, that's a goal. I don't get lost, I already went on the registration, I'm so smart, and Mama, I don't get lost, it's only a block away, you know, I don't talk to strangers, I be polite. Yes, I know, que vengo, where I come from, they say, the 3 highest things is God, the Virgin Guadalupe, y la maestra, the teacher. So I do respect to her, like you say, Mama, and no, I don't talk to strangers, and I don't get lost, and I'm almost there already, Mama, can I go? And so she gets to school, and then she stops on the way to talk to a stranger, a little kid, at a little house that's too little to go to first grade, so she tells me, "You can't go," and I try. And she says, and I go to first grade, it's going to be fun like Christmas, they teach us to read, they teach us to write, they teach us lots of stuff, and teachers are going to love me because I'm smart, and because I'm pretty, and because I will be late, so I'll come back and tell you all about it. So she goes on to school, and when she gets there, she wants to tell the teacher, "I don't have to write my name. My name is Tere." The teacher says, "That's nice, I sit down." "Teacher, I know how to write my name." "Teacher, I know how to write my name. It's Tere." That's nice, I sit down. And they keep going at it until finally the teacher gets her to sit down, and she learns how to raise her hand, and how to lower her hand, and how to sit down. And finally, a little later in the day, she finally gets to work on her name. And she introduces herself to the teacher, saying, "My name is Tere," and the teacher says, "I'm Miss Jones." She says, "My name is Tere," and she says, "That's Terry, Terry." And she says, "No, it's Tere." She says, "No, it's pronounced. No, it's pronounced Tere." And they go back and forth for a while, and finally the teacher says, "Terry," and she says, "Oh, okay, it's 3. And goes through a whole day, and every time she slips up and says Terry, the teacher gets a little more ticked with her and finally says, "I might have to put her in the slow class." She's like, "I don't want to go in the slow class. I want to run slow all day long. I want to run and jump with everyone else. And I got first grade tomorrow." She gets on her books. So there's a tremendous amount of, this is spread out over several points in here, or you see the theatrical version that's inside out. But she realizes that something's happened. She has lost her name. She's no longer being called by the name that she knows and loves, the name that's after her grandma. So I'll skip forward a little bit. They move a lot. There are a lot of little tiny races, towns, and this is what's called moving. We had to move. I don't remember why. My daddy got a new job, or the old job finished, or didn't pay enough to stay. The new town wasn't any bigger than the old one, but the people were mean to us, and I felt a lot more lost, especially in school. The teacher there must have taken lessons from the teacher in the old place, because she too changed my name to Terry. Guess none of them like names that sound like Spanish, so they took away my name. I wonder what's left that they can't take away from me. So then Grandma comes to visit. Grandma Tere has always been a joy to the family and a big support. So Grandma comes down to little town that they're living in, and she begins to teach better ways to deal with the world around her. And this one's called My Grandmother Taught Me. One of the things my grandmother taught me was how to make a fiesta out of every day. Every day she would whisper, "This is a celebration. It's the feast of San Fulano de Tal." And she would tell me the name of the saint for that day, or the celebration for that day, or the reason we should be happy that day. El Día del Mariachi, a day to listen to mariachi music. El Día del Chef, a day to cook something special and exotic. El Día de la Risa, a day to spend joking and laughing. Now I know why that is just as strong a word as guerrera. Because when you're celebrating, when you find a reason to be happy, a reason to sing or dance or paint or play or laugh or write, they haven't taken it away from you. Because he had no papers. Because he had no papers, my dad could only get the temporary jobs. The ones that didn't pay enough. The ones that had to work long hours. The ones that disappeared from one day to the next. So we would move and move and move. Sometimes he worked picking oranges. Sometimes he worked building houses. Sometimes he worked on chicken farms. Sometimes he worked on the sidewalk. But papers or no, he always came home to ask me, "How was school, mija?" And if I was already asleep, he'd just kiss me. About Texas and Mexico. In 4th grade, the teacher said we were going to learn about Texas and Mexico. We'd never talked about Mexico in school before, so I was excited. I blurted out, "My dad is from Mexico, and my mom's family is from Texas since long ago when Texas was Mexico." But they ignored me. Our teacher showed us pictures of the heroes of the Alamo. And she showed us pictures of the Mexican soldiers crawling through the walls of the Alamo and stabbing the Texans with bayonets. The Mexicans were sneering. The Texans were bleeding. I said, "That's just a painting. Are there any photographs from someone who was actually there to show what really happened?" Teacher ignored me, and a couple of the kids pointed at me and laughed. Later, I looked at Alamo up on the computer and found out there were Mexican Texans and Black Texans too, who were fighting alongside those heroes of the Alamo. They weren't in the paintings the teacher showed us. And after the Battle of the Alamo, some of them left the new Texas for Mexico, because in Mexico, slavery was against the law. In the US, it was the law. And here in Texas, those heroes were fighting to the death to make slavery the law for our Texas too. They will not silence me. So most of my time in school, I learned to keep quiet, because when I spoke up, I got in trouble. Then finally last year, I got a teacher who was so cool. He told me we were cool. He told us our voice mattered. "Don't let them silence you," he said. He told us our family stories were part of history too. He said we could write our history in a book and put it in a library for everyone to see. He told us we came from a long line of strong people with powerful stories. I felt like singing. But then we moved again. I left behind that school, that home, that town, but I took something with me. Something celebrating, singing deep inside me in a voice that won't be stopped. No matter what, they will not silence me. They will not take my story or my joy away from me. My shield. I come from a long line of people who know how to keep their courage up and their love strong, who know how to keep their birthday party smiles, no matter if folks are giving them trash day dirty looks. I come from a long line of rock-solid moms, dawn-breathing dads, and grandmas who light candles of hope that will burn for a lifetime. Grandmas who teach you how to build a shield. I built my shield to keep ugly things out. I built my shield to let lots of love in. I built my shield to protect me from name callers, punch stick routers, dirty looks, dirty tricks. I built my shield to welcome me with big dreams, warm smiles, new friends. I built my shield from love, from the blessings an old woman gave me when I was still too tiny to talk, from glances honeyed with que chula, que maravillosa, que wonderful, Deportation is an ugly word. Deportation sounds like operation, sounds like amputation, sounds like dehydration, sounds like discrimination. I know a lot of words, but deportation is one of the ugliest, especially since last night when my dad got picked up by some officers with guns and taken to who knows where again. Grandma says, don't worry, your papacito belongs right here with you, and this is where he'll come back to. Love is stronger than borders. Patience is stronger than hate. Mama's crying in the other room, but when she comes out, she tries to put on a smile for us, and Grandma hugs both of us and says, just wait. In just a few months, he'll be back. Diosito nos ayudará. So she started school. She hasn't, because of all the constant moving, she hasn't really had a chance to ever make friends. And she's in this wonderful school in the west side of San Antonio with these very supportive teachers and these other kids, and she begins to make some friends. I've never had a best friend before, but now I have a friend. Me, la shorty, la flaca, la nobody likes her, la wears the heavy does from Goodwill, la always looking for somewhere to sit in the cafeteria, have a good friend, and her name is La Liz. And now not only do I feel like I'm taller and smarter and not alone, but I also feel stronger, like Selena Guevara, aka Wonder Woman. I feel more me. And now no one can ever convince me that me is not a good thing to do. So then she finds out that once you have one friend, it's easier to make another one. So she meets some pretty cool friends, and this one is named Cata. And she writes a poem about Cata, because by now her writing has been what's keeping her alive. In her little purple journal, she just keeps writing and writing about the things that happened to her. And she writes about the people she meets as well. So she's writing a poem about Cata, told in Cata's words. So my name is Cata, Cata, but most people call me Cata, because some people think they can't pronounce my name. Well, they can, but they don't know they can. They say, they see C-A-T, and immediately they think cat. And then they see the A at the end, and they say, so they call me Cat, I try to teach them, but they close their minds. Spanish pronunciation to them is like on a different planet. It's like they see memes coming from a different planet. But I celebrate having two languages. I like the way life feels when you can laugh in two languages and share in two languages and breathe in two languages. Yeah, my name is Cata. Cata. She starts to gain confidence because the teachers are listening to her opinions about things, which was rather rare in the other areas she had been in. And so when she gets a little more confident, she, at the end of one of her long homework papers, begins to write a letter to the teacher. And it says, Dear Mr. Mason, the history homework you assigned makes me sad, makes me cry, makes me ready to revolt. First, that history textbook is so big and heavy, I have to squeeze it into my backpack and it almost breaks the zipper. Second, I walk like 13 blocks home, carrying it like iron weights, and I'm only 12 and not a weightlifter. Third, that chapter on the Industrial Revolution was so long, it took me over 3 hours to read it. And worst of all, I read what it said. In the Industrial Revolution, kids were forced to work 10 hours a day or more, and I was just plain wrong. Mr. Mason, have you read this chapter? I think you need to reread the line that says, child labor laws, labor declared working children more than 8 hours a day against the law. Mr. Mason, I worked hard 7 hours at school today, plus 3 hours of your homework, and now I have to do math homework too. That's more than 10 hours, and that's against the law. Love your student. P.S. I'm really good at math. She begins to notice injustice. You know, she's becoming conscientizada. She's beginning to say, these things aren't fair. And one of the people she notices that all this is very quiet, and she's from a people called Chato. Chato starts, his line starts to point. No, miss, yo no sé nada. Chapo blurts out, honest-hearted, when Miss Jackson says, "You know what X represents, y'all?" And the whole math class busts out laughing. He hides his worn tennis shoes under the desk, and his eyes turn low where we can't see what they're thinking. I hear his exasperated sighs as he plods through the math problem, and when he gives the teacher his paper, his smile pleads with her to be kind. She doesn't look up from her desk, doesn't see it. Only I see the hope that still grows from the hands he is squeezing together, head down, and shoulders slumped. The fall is coming on, August, September, October pass, and we still haven't heard a word back from her dad, and the family's beginning to get very worried. But Grandma helps fill in her hours with, lots of information and emotional support, and answers a lot of her questions, and this one is called What Grandma Tells Us When Miss Gata Chapo and I Wonder Why History Books Give Us a Funny and Visible Feeling. Grandma jokes. When my ancestor saw Columbus landing and kissing the ground, he was super lost. He thought he was in India. So if anyone wants to talk about Columbus discovering America, explain to them that he was lost and America discovered him. My grandma says her family comes from right here, has been living here in San Antonio since before it was the U.S. or Mexico or even San Antonio. Her people called it Yanaguana. Grandma says when the Europeans came, they changed our names, our city's name, our language, and tried to change our religion too. My grandma corrects anyone who says the Indians disappeared. Because we're not gone, she says. We're still right here in Garcia and Martinez de Leon, Delgado, Campos, and Flores, Hernandez, and Sanchez. We might speak Spanish, we might speak English, but our blood is still the same. And our Indio cultures have given you so much. Chips and salsa, ketchup and rice, chewing gum, chocolate, 2 houses of Congress, hammocks to relax, and a 0 to do math and make computers, pues que más quieren. Things start to get to her as the news gets uglier and uglier. This is 2019, and there's a lot of ugly stuff on the news against immigrants, etc. Calling our cultura all kinds of ugly things. This one's called Sacred and Good. Grandma's making homemade flour tortillas, and I can smell papa from oil on the stove. This usually makes me happy, but I must look sad today because Grandma asked, "What's papa, mi hijita, qué te pasa?" It's what I saw on TV last night, I tell her. People shouting at the camera, shouting about Mexicans. They don't know better, mijita. Some of them are just repeating things they've heard. They've never even met one of us. But it's not just them, Grandma. Even some kids at school repeat this stuff. Talk about asylum seekers like they're criminals, not people seeking freedom. They say Mexicans try to come here for a free ride. But we work so hard, and I don't see any free rides. Grandma hands me the warm cup of huevo taco and a cup of hot chocolate and says, "Remember, just because people say things doesn't make them true. Remember, use your shield to keep ugly words away from you." Then she puts her arm around my shoulders, makes the blessing sign on my forehead again and again and again, and tells me, "You are valuable. You are important. You come from cariño and courage and creativity. You come from love. Child of the universe, sacred and good, sacred and good, sacred and good." And finally, I feel strong, really strong again. And she finds out a lot of stuff about Grandma. This one's called Grandma Did What? I'm feeling pretty good as Grandma and I finish off our breakfast tacos. So Grandma lets out the longest sigh. I had hoped things would be much better by now. It's been 50 years since we had the Chicana movement protest marches. You were part of the Chicana movement? Yeah. I was 17 and a senior, ready to reclaim our rights in this land of ours, ready to change the world. What? My Grandma? While I'm still trying to figure that out, she continues, and we did change things, even change some of the school rules after which we were no longer paddled for speaking Spanish. They paddled my grandma? What do you mean you got paddled in school for speaking Spanish? Oh yeah, back then we had teachers who hit us with big wood paddles, once for every word we spoke in Spanish. I winced, so is that why you protested? Oh, there were so many reasons to protest. The schools where we Mexican American kids went didn't offer advanced classes, and they didn't expect us to go to college. They forced us to change our names to English names. My brother Rafael had to call himself Ralph. We were tired of it, ready to call ourselves what we wanted to be called, to decide what jobs we would like, or if we wanted to go to college. We needed to be able to follow our dreams. We had asked, and they wouldn't listen. So one day we all walked out. And many parents joined us in the protest marches. Some store owners and college professors did too. Soon a young Mexican American ran for state senate. Se llamaba Joe Bernal. And we got all our parents to go out and vote. He was elected. And he passed a new bill. No longer speaking Spanish on school grounds would be against state law. And you know what? They heard us. That very next year, they started offering college prep classes, and there was no more paddling. So she begins to really develop her sense of why she needs to speak out, or what she needs to speak out against. But the thing that's still getting her is that that's not home. Thanksgiving's on the way, and it's beginning to be really tough. And all the Thanksgivings I've ever loved come rushing back to me, and my favorite part, the annual wishbone wrestling match. Dad always pretends to be a big, brawny, lucha libre fighter and sets up a table for us to arm wrestle, acting like he's gonna annihilate and put our arms on the table, giggling so hard we can barely breathe. As we each grab an end of the wishbone. Ready, he says. ¿Estás segura? Then he does a big dramatic countdown like 10, 9, 8, 7 and a half, 7 and a fourth, 7 un poquitito, 6 and a half. And finally, when we hit 1, he pretends to be struggling with all his might to beat, and he cries out in pain, and usually I win. But we all laugh so hard, the whole family feels like everybody won. Then I open my eyes to today without him. And then she starts interacting with Mr. Mason more. Ariana ends up her homework papers. She has read a book about Emma Yuka, and she's like, how come we don't hear about her in our history book? Why can't we read more stories about people like her, about people like my grandma? Why aren't grandma's stories in my textbook? And stories about the Chicana movement teenagers, huh? Why, Mr. Mason? Why? From Selena, Teresa, Guerrera, Amaya. So, yeah, I'm gonna skip forward a little bit. There are a few tough things that happen. I don't know, should we stop like now or go a little bit more? Okay. Erase and ignore. There's something that happens in school that really calls it all out to her. There's this teacher who always pronounces my last name girl, even though I tell her it's Guerrera. And she never pays attention to Chaco when he raises his hand to ask for help in math. So today I was standing in front of the lockers, getting my notebook for afternoon classes, and some loud girl with a nearby locker was cussing on her friend and threatening, I'll hit you so hard to take you to the hospital if you're still alive. Math teacher hears the commotion and comes running out towards me. She's shouting, young lady, you stop that behavior immediately. Before I can say anything, she's on this walkie-talkie to the principal's office telling, we got a fight in the Northwest hallway for room 207. And when me and Liz and Chaco tried to tell her it wasn't me, she ignores us. Loud girl keeps laughing and points a finger and says, yeah, ma'am, that Mexican girl was gonna pull a knife on me. And that teacher keeps looking at me like I'm the criminal. But it was her shouting, I try to explain. But again, teacher doesn't hear me. Doesn't hear me at all. Clean cut. So math teacher is still holding on to me when another teacher starts running towards us all out of breath, gasping, that girl over there was the one shouting, not the one you're holding. And math teacher lets go of me with a blank look on her face and just says, oh, and to the walkie-talkie, never mind. Then she walks up to loud girl and just says quietly, don't do that again, okay? Don't do that again, okay? A minute later, love girls are into her class, and that teacher is explaining to our red teacher, she must have been provoked, I know her, clean cut, comes from a good family. Liz and Chuck and I just watch in shock. Then the bell rings, we run, and I don't see either of them till after fifth period. They're all through PE up there like I'm gonna cry. By the time we're together again in sixth period math, I'm breathing slow and deep like an angry bull. Liz fumes, I can't believe she would just automatically assume we were the troublemakers. Chapo looks down and moans, and this math teacher, she just conducts class like normal and doesn't meet my eyes not even once. It's like I'm invisible, or even worse, when it comes to anything except trouble, I don't exist. Don't let it in. What did Miss Jackson mean by clean cut? I asked. White? Chaco states flatly. Well, maybe she was just confused, says Heather, who's joined us at the lockers at the end of the day. She's always been nice to me. Nice to you, says Chaco. Have you ever wondered why she calls on you every time you raise your hand? You mean she doesn't call on you? Not once, this whole year, Chaco sees. I can wave my hands for 30 minutes and she won't even move my way. Well, she certainly wasn't nice to Sally today, snaps Liz. She was wrong, and she should have apologized. Heather looks thoughtful. Maybe it's because those girls go to her same church, and she knows them. I see them there together all the time. Nah, Chapo says, I think it's about color. Some colors she trusts, and others she doesn't. Heather's mouth is open. But that's just like those men who thought the jogger guy on the artery was a criminal just because of his color. And Liz and Chaco and I just look at them and one more little thing I think about Chaco and I will care about teachers. What we don't always know about our friends. I was missing, this is after the pandemic has hit, and she's shut inside her house like everybody else, and one night she just can't take it anymore. I was missing my friends so bad, and my dad and my mom worked so many hours now that Dad's not here, and I was so bored about not going anywhere that I jumped on my bike and rode around the block. Not very exciting, but suddenly I saw Chapo on his bike and I waved and stopped 6 feet away for pandemic social distancing to ask how he was doing. He said he was helping his mom by selling empanadas at the gas stations so they could make a little money to buy food. He looked worried and maybe hungry. There were 4 empanadas in a package in his bike basket that hadn't been sold. I told him, my grandma loves empanadas. Can we buy what you have left? So he followed me home and waited while I brought the money onto the porch along with a big plastic olla from my grandma. What's this? Yes, fideo con pollo, answered. My grandma made a huge pot of it and wanted to share. And suddenly a big sunshiny smile broke out on his face as if I'd handed him a treasure. My 4 little brothers are gonna love this. I didn't know he had 4 brothers. I didn't know he was still out working despite the quarantine. I didn't know his family was worried about not having enough food. But what I do know is that Chaco is very caring and responsible and has a very nice smile. She's been deciding all through the book that she's going to celebrate the things she wants to celebrate, like Dia de los Maestros and Emma Taneco's birthday, and she's coming up with all her own holidays. And the one to the teachers is one that really credits them a lot. I'm gonna have to borrow from somebody the books I wanted. No, it's here. It's the last one. It's the last point of the book that I wanted to share with you. When a lot of things happened. I won't tell you what happened, but her friends pull her through, and a lot happens. And on the very last page, she summarizes what she's learned. She says, they don't have the power. Sometimes they try to take everything away from you. Sometimes they actually do. But then you look inside and find something there they can't even see. and they can't even understand, and so they don't have the power to see it, touch it, or take it away. They don't have the power, you do. You are all that has happened to you, and all that you dream to be, and all the possibilities whether it leads to not, and all of your story, and all of your name, and all you have loved, and all you choose to celebrate, all of you, guerrero, this knowledge, this courage, is all inside you, will be your shield, will be your power. So that's just a little bit. Which incorporates factual stories and is a multi-generational story. So we hear the stories of grandma's life, we hear the stories of mom and dad's life, we hear her stories, and we even hear some stories that have to do with her little tiny cousin, the generation that's coming after her. So it gives us a lot of Mexican American history. It gives us a lot of San Antonio history, and that's a very specific San Antonio brags in the book, because I think we're a very special city with a tremendous amount of resources. And if you don't believe that, just look at what's going on in all the rest of the state and how we get in trouble just because we want to be a city of compassion. Since when did compassion get such a bum rap? So, for a city of diversity, really, and stuff. So, there's some real shout outs in there. It not only tells about some of our story, but it tells how kids too can develop that kind of a resilience that says if someone tells you something that's not true, that's all. And that goes for us too. We can't waste all of our energy fighting stuff that's coming for the wrong motivations. It's coming at us out of ignorance, or it's coming at us out of envy. We have to be strong enough to remember who we are, what strength we have inside of us, what beauty we have, and how the blessings of our grandmothers are still in us, protecting us. So anyway, that's kind of in a thumbnail why I wrote Guerrera, which is what it was called originally, and then the publishers, of course, said, well, why don't you call it Guerrera in the Spanish version? Oh, there's going to be a Spanish version, okay. You know how to reach it. And call it Warrior Girl in English. So that's what we did. And I'm very proud to say that it's out in English, it's out in audiobook, and next month will be out in Spanish as well.
Wow. I want to thank some people behind the scenes and also set the context, because clearly Carmen is a brilliant writer, brilliant educator, and brilliant performer. Isn't that a wonder? I do want to give a shout out to a few people behind the scene. My name is Tony Diaz, the Librotraficante. I'm the literary curator here at the Latino Bookstore at the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center. Of course, our director is Cristina Bailly, whose vision it was to create this Latino bookstore. In a little bit, you're going to meet Alma Pina at the counter, because she is here all week making sure that this place keeps going and we can attend to you. But she's the person you'll meet when you buy 5 or 6 copies of this book. I also want to thank Guadalupe Cultural from Nuestra, Palabra, Latino Artists have to say what's up with the live stream. And we're on the phone. Right now is Roxana Guzman, who's helping on the production side. You can actually go to the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Facebook page and click the YouTube link to share it with folks in case they missed this. And then also we want to thank Texas Commission on the Arts and also City of San Antonio, the Cultural Arts Department. And just to let you know what went on today, not only did we get a powerful reading, but the shield you want us to create is important, because the real history of our gente is all around us right here. So the last meeting of last year featured Dr. Munoz, Dr. Moran Gonzalez from University of Texas, who were part of the co-founders of the Refusing to Forget project. This has traveled all over the country. This is one of the first times it's exhibited at a community center. But this is exactly what you're talking about. This is the history that our youth should get, but they're not. So how beautiful to have you share those powerful metaphors and stories right here with us. As our youth then can see their history in its full splendor on our terms and then come back. So please do tell other folks that they can come back, pick up copies of Warrior Girl for themselves, but then also view this exhibit, which is here throughout the next couple of months. But it all goes together really potently because, like you mentioned, our gente are not getting these stories, and it's still as momentous as ever. I would like to close the public
And I
discourse.
think you guys also have copies of some of my other books here. For the younger child, there's a picture book called The Last Butterfly, La Última Mariposa, which the wonderful Regina Williams illustrated with incredible art. And I think we have the Hermosos collection of poetry,
Also,
which is art by Catalina Gárate and poem in English and Spanish, the voice of a woman. And these were women in a very small indigenous village in Mexico, so, I tried to capture their emotions and their experiences.
we may still have copies of Curandera also.
You have
as
to put
well.
on that, which is the band book. It was the one that was out for 30 years, and right as it's coming out, 30th anniversary edition, and I was being borrowed in San Antonio, City Point, anyway, I think you might want to.
Yes,
Oh, you put that.
As well.
Short stories, if you're not in poetry, like, you don't want to read a long book. This has short stories, and I think, yeah, why do we do that tonight?
but you can pick up any of these copies, get them signed, get your picture with Carmen. And again, I want you to know that any of the proceeds go back to the Guadalupe Cultural Arts Center. I do want to say, I've never seen so many kids in the audience, so it's fantastic. I'm here for you. And I know folks are there, that's the one, but I'd like to take one question from the student. Would you like to say anything about tonight? I'm putting you on the spot. And the folks are encouraging it, because you know what, you're gonna run the city one day, and we're so happy that you grow up just thinking, I'm surrounded by our leaders, our culture. We love it if you said one word in closing so that we know all this work matters. Let me ask you something. Did you have fun tonight? And what did you like most about tonight? And what is your name? Alejandro. Ladies and gentlemen, Alejandro said it was an intriguing story. On that note, Carmen, are you ready to sign a bunch of books? Do you like when people give them away to their younger cousins and older kids? Because this is. And it is for boys and men as well, because we need the shield as well. So ladies and gentlemen, one final round of applause, and then we can have her all you want, so. Come on, behavior.